and it needs to be done, guys. So let's get our cowboy boots on. And
remember the last one? We were so optimistic. We're like, oh, Ethan's on board. Ethan's picking. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Oh, great! And then fucking, I'm blaming you, Tony.
Well, I mean,
even though it's my fault.
It's not your fault. We all played Red Dead. We all watched Inception. We're ready.
Yeah. Eventually.
We are Red Dead ready.
Red Dad. I'm getting in there before Tony, so we can't constantly say it. Harry.
That's my number one catchphrase on the video podcast now.
I can't. This is gonna be even more monotone than 2012 was.
Is that
what a
banger
that year
13
was.
even. 12 was FTL.
So full of Christmas and New Year cheer.
I think this is going to be the most monotone one we've ever done.
The paper is more enthusiastic than we are.
Hello,
I'm hyped for this
and
game.
welcome to the Media Podcast. Is this 2010?
Yeah.
It's 2010.
Cool.
It is 2010.
Boys, what are your honourable mentions for 2010?
You're first on the list, so why don't you tell us?
We just we're reading off the script, Ethan.
Ethan, come on, I want some improvisation.
You need to liven up.
I know.
Get in the Christmas spirit.
Why don't you start, Ethan?
What? Because I'm hosting.
I mean, it is.
Well, I'm not even hosting.
It is
You
your
can't introduce us.
These are your picks.
Yeah, no,
Why
it should be.
so if you had to pick something else.
Alright, so I'll go through really quickly what my honourable mention is. So this year I picked Shutter Island.
A film.
Yeah, it's a film.
I mean, you're so enthusiastic about games, Ethan. Yeah, you're always trying to put 2 games down.
Yeah, I know. I've got to fix that problem of mine. So I picked Shutter Island because it's one of my favourite Scorsese films that doesn't have detectives and a lot of swearing and Robert De Niro.
It's about detectives.
Oh god, it fucking does as well. I don't even know my own fucking honourable mention. Okay, let's start that again. Shutter Island is a really, really good film. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest watching it. It's about a couple of detectives who go to an island.
I thought it was about shutters.
I like how Leonardo DiCaprio's character names and everything is shit. So what's he in Inception? He's Dom Cobb.
He's Dom Cobb.
Dom Cobb.
Dominic
Cobb.
In Shutter Island, it's Teddy something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Teddy Daniels.
Teddy Daniels. Dom Cobb.
Dominic Cobb. So these 2 detectives, they go to an island in the middle of nowhere where there is a mental hospital or an asylum. Who really knows, to be honest? And one of the patients there disappears, and it's not possible that she's left the island because of how it's completely cut off from basically all of the mainland. So these 2 detectives, they go along and they investigate, and they make a lot of interesting discoveries. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, any more I think would be a spoiler.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Shutter Island?
No, I think I'd heard about it till.
It's a good film if you do psychology A level, which you did, didn't you?
Psychology A, yes.
Yeah.
All right, Tony. How about you?
Well, since this was 2010 and a game I played came out in that year, my honourable mention is Halo Reach, because it's really fun. You know, it was probably the first one that I got into the franchise proper, you know, into the multiplayer. And I'll always look back on Halo Reach as the point in the progression of time of which graphics became lifelike. I don't know why I think that, because it's not true, but something about the way it looks.
I think if you said Halo 4, I actually believe that.
Yeah, I think Halo Reach is just good enough. I can just wow, that is...
Which number is Halo Reach in the series?
It's... I'm not going to get into the Halo chronology.
It's a pretty...
Alright, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to...
it's like a whole thing, because there's multiple timelines.
It's like that. It's like that time you asked, is Final Fantasy 15 the 15th Final Fantasy game? And we had to work out how many Final Fantasy.
It's like the time where someone asked if Rogue One was going to have a sequel.
I hope she's listening to this one day.
Good ending, good story of Halo Reach.
Maybe she's one of the 2 listeners.
Oh, what if she is?
We've worked it out.
Oh, no, and our abilities weren't even that bad. Anyway, what are other people's honourable mentions?
Alright, we've done a film and a game. Another film, Jonathan?
So, I would have picked Four Lions, which I think is just one of the best films.
Such a good film.
It's
Yes, I know.
it's Christopher Morris. That is his name.
It's
someone else
Morris.
that I confuse him with. So yeah, Christopher Morris directing, and it's just it's just amazing how he manages to deal with terrorism in a comedy and does it better than I think any film could ever do, really. It's just a masterpiece. It's funny and makes you think and feel and all of those things. It's just one of the best films ever.
It's really good.
Yeah, and I don't
really
say that
fun.
lightly.
It's much better to watch than No Country for Old Men after you've been staying up for 24 hours. I know
You say that again.
from experience.
Right, so I picked Limbo. Have any of you guys played Limbo?
I have seen screenshots of Limbo.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
it's a really, really...
Yeah, Limbo's a really great game.
Oh, really? What's your favourite aspect of it?
I think my character's my favourite thing about Limbo.
The characters.
Yeah, they're great.
You know,
There's that doctor, detectives in there as well.
there is no dialogue
You're
in Limbo.
joking.
Yeah, it's a 2D platformer.
Is it
Well,
Mal
well
down
they
there?
express themselves so well,
Oh, wow.
you barely notice.
Okay, that's quite good. Fuck's sake.
Do you know what I said?
Get it now.
That was so aggressive. It was like Keanu Reeves, like, I get it now. Yeah, it's a really
Need to get
intelligent,
online.
2D platformer, like stylistically incredible, and I really want to play Inside because Playdead are very good at doing 2D platforms. Anyway, Jonathan Knowles, the man with the headphones, you have picked a TV show / podcast / radio show / whatever the fuck you want
Yeah,
in this section, which we give you.
for this year, this was the year in which Adventure Time first hit our screens, which is just it's a children's show, but it's not really. It's definitely for adults. All the references it has in it, all the emotions it has in it. It has one of the most tragic characters in all of media and literature. It is just it's amazing how in each episode is only like 10 minutes long, but it's managed to like create this world and all these characters that you begin to know so well, and it just has some of the best characters, some of the best stories, some of the best sort of emotional moments. It's
How long did it run for?
it's
Still runs, doesn't it?
well,
Like
there's-
Sonic
I
from
think
the
it's gonna. I think it's like 8th or 9th season is going to be its last one. I think.
Game of Thrones.
So it's at this point in time, it's beginning to reach its end. But another nice thing about it is it's a cartoon where the character actually grows up. So they start off, I think, 10, and then at the moment they're like 16 or 17, and it's just impressive how it that helps what he's dealing with sort of change a bit as well, instead of the sort of Simpsons thing where it's the same people throughout this whole same experience.
Yeah, it's
So
not
do
the...
Sorry,
Sorry, you pulled a bit for Harry there.
Yeah, that's all.
You go first.
So,
I don't like silence.
so do the characters? Because I've only watched a few episodes of this show, but do the characters look different than they do at the beginning of the show at the end?
They don't visibly change because I mean only one of the characters is human, so it's only them who's growing older.
Is Princess Bubblegum not a human?
No, she's a sort of manifestation of sentient gum,
Oh, okay. Then.
and her age changes depending on how much sort of candy mass you add or take away from her. There's a bit where some gets taken away and she becomes a 13-year-old girl when Finn is 13.
Really?
And
That's-
it all gets
that's
a bit
crazy.
Bad
awkward.
/ good
Yeah,
anime
is this
plot.
anime?
No. I mean, it's because he's 13 at the same time. It's about being
Okay.
playmates, and then she. I mean, spoilers, but she has to go back to being 18 so she can legally run the kingdom. Also, she becomes like a bit of a tyrannical dictator, and that's also pretty cool. Anyway,
One more question: do we ever see Finn's hair in this show?
I mean,
That's
We
been
do.
bugging me for so long.
I think
we do, yeah. In I think even the first series, there's
And
a
what
bit
colour
with
is
he's blonde. There's a magnificent reveal. Another great thing about this is just how you begin to think that I don't know, all the female characters basically are princesses at the start. So you're there sort of worried. Well, will this just be another thing where it's adventurous boy saves princess again and again and again? But I mean the Princess Bubblegum definitely is like the most competent character, is actually good at what she does, and is an interesting character. And as it goes on, it's a great thing for representing both genders. even has some gender reversing episodes, which are interesting. Yeah.
All I know about it is that it's kind of based on like a D&D thing, because I've seen references to that.
Yes,
brought up.
yeah. So the way the creators write it basically is they imagine they're playing a D&D game, but with these characters. So you notice sort of lots of, because there's literally one bit where they're like going through a dungeon that sort of never ends, and there's lots of monsters, and then they pick up items and sort of go along. It's there's lots of references hidden in it as well. Can't remember off the top of my head because it's been a while since I've seen it all. But
what's the non-dog main character's name?
Jake.
Jake. Yeah, I was about to say Jake. I know that he says like, oh man, I can't do that. It would go against my alignment because that's a D&D thing for characters having like lawful good, lawful.
he has.
Thanks for looking at me so that I learn this lesson.
Al Pacino was chaotic evil. I'm still mad about that.
I mean,
but
we're not going into this.
Yeah, we're not getting into D&D. Anyway, I saw one episode one time. I was watching it with a
which
6-year-old.
episode did you see?
I have no idea. I had no idea what was going on. I hear everything you say about it. The thing you always bring up about it is how like harrowing and dark it is. So I can't quite believe it's for children.
There is some because it's. Thank you for reminding me of that, because it's based after the end of the world, basically. A nuclear apocalypse has happened, and they're living in the aftermath. And you can see that in some of the moments. There's one sort of episode where I can't remember, but they're like some sort of horribly irradiated monsters, basically, that they fend off. There's another one where you realise you follow one of the backstory of two of the characters. And you realise that they had to like survive the immediate aftermaths of the nuclear thing, and it's them sort of dealing with the world being destroyed. It's just it cannot be for kids. It's too
I think out of all the episodes that I watched, the one that really stuck with me for being my favourite was the one where, have you seen every episode?
Yes.
So you must have seen the one where I think it's Finn's birthday and they're on a train, and it's basically like Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Oh, it's such a great episode.
It's like The Commuter.
Really good episode.
Yeah. What's also great is Finn's birthday is always on the same time each year for that
each
episode.
season. Oh, that is fair.
Yeah, I think there are some that it just like misses out because it doesn't want to always have a birthday episode.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think if you look at the dates, they line up, or that's something I've read somewhere. Yeah.
Alright, thank you all for listening. Join us next week in the Adventure Time.
Can we just skip Red Dead Redemption and just talk about Adventure Time?
I love how Red Dead Redemption is your favourite game. Like, can we just skip it, please?
It's not my favourite game anymore. I've come to
playing FIFA 10 on
What
the
is
Wii.
it?
No, it's Lego Star Wars. I told you guys. It's probably my favourite game. Yeah, it's one of the first games I ever played, and I'm not going to talk about it because I'm going to be talking about Red Dead
Lego
Redemption.
Star Wars, the original saga, was my first ever PS2 game.
Oh, really? It was my first ever Xbox 360 game, but my favourite one is the complete saga because it combines both trilogies.
You had a better console than me. Fuck.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so let's start. I actually have that line in my.
In your what?
In my script, which I'm going to write
Sequel.
this summer.
Right. Do you want me to talk about Red Dead Redemption?
What's the game? Introduce it. What's it
So
about?
Red Dead Redemption is
Give
a
your
video
opinions.
game. Yeah, I'll give my opinions. It's by you'll probably have to give all of the stuff about who created the game and what.
Rockstar.
Rockstar, thank you. So it's a Rockstar game, and it's a western, which is fairly obvious by the name, but if you didn't know, there you go. And the story is you play as a man called John Marston, and his wife and child have been taken away from him by the US government, and that's because the US government want to force him to round up the members of his old gang who he was running with before he tried to start his life over again. And
Just hearing that, it's fucking brilliant.
yeah, it's a fantastic game. And I can't remember.
Game takes
but-
ages before it tells you that's what it's about, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know,
Holds
I
back
know.
information.
Remind me really quickly, is he asked to kill them? Or is he asked to just take them dead or alive?
Take
It
them
doesn't
dead or
matter.
alive.
Yeah, I think there's
They
a point
prefer
where
alive, do they?
you can choose in the game. There's a squaler.
Spoiler.
And I think
Okay,
depending
so-
on if you can do it, you can lasso him.
I think this entire podcast is going to be us going, I think this, and then turning to like, yeah. you can.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to twist the game now.
So
I-
Distort reality.
I mean,
The bit
I
with smoke
lassoed at that moment.
So yeah, that's the basic premise of the game, and you spend various parts of the game tracking down each individual member, and the main members are oh God, do you like to remind me? So Javier Escuela's the second guy that you track down in Mexico.
Bill Williamson.
Bill Williamson, thanks for
He's
reminding me, is the
always-
first act.
Touch
Yeah.
randomly.
And then you spend the third act rounding up the head honcho, basically,
Yeah.
the chief. Yeah, Dutch Van.
And then the epilogue, you are a farmer.
Yeah,
You mean
exactly.
the secret fourth act of the game? Because
And it
it's-
really is a fourth act. It really is a fourth act. But on your journey to try and hunt down these men and take them into custody or kill them, you meet a group of characters
Yeah.
and do missions with them. And depending on the character that you're with, the mission will be very different. So in the first act, you have a character called Bonnie McFarlane, and the missions you tend to do with her are quite sort of farmer
kind of like
based.
Viva Pinata or Stardew Valley kind of missions.
That means nothing to me, but I'll say yes to that.
Wasn't about
So it's
killing
kind of
them.
like rounding up cattle and killing rabbits who are stealing your carrots or something. I'm pretty sure it was one of the
very,
missions.
very mundane.
Was it one of the missions, Tony? Killing
Oh, that was
killing
definitely
rabbits.
one there. You kill some dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an
Yeah, it's
incredible.
pastoral, I guess. Do you mean
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there'll be another character also in the first act,
All the famous
Marshall
parts.
Johnson, who you tend to do more kind of violent missions with. So you'll probably be hunting down groups, saving people who have been taken captive by random gangs.
This is where you start just murdering hundreds of people.
Yes,
I
that
think
does start to happen
What you're,
as well.
what you're really trying to say is it's not about killing the members of the gang, it's the friends we made along the way.
Friends is a very loose term.
It
Some of
is
those
very
characters are quite annoying.
Yeah, again, remind me I
Well,
called him
in the-
H.G. Wells the other day, but Nigel West Dickens.
yeah,
Nigel West
him.
Dickens.
Mm.
He
Fuck him.
is unstandable. That's not a word, is it? He's unbearable, is what he
I
is.
think
he's
he's one
completely
of them.
unbearable.
It was,
I don't
it was
mind
my,
him.
He's such a
my
liar
favourite
and a
character.
deceitful
I don't
cheat.
mind
Really?
him.
Oh, he's just a
Contrary, I
pain.
think.
And I don't like
I
his
don't
missions
mind
because they're extremely repetitive. It
Oh,
involves
yeah, his mission.
using Deadeye to shoot a bunch of bottles.
Oh, no,
or...
not him. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
I
he
like
wasn't.
Really? No. Are you thinking of Seth? Because Seth is a fucking.
No, I'm
rat.
not thinking. I'm thinking of the one that you guys properly find unbearable and skip
Yeah.
all the dialogue for.
Ireland? Not
No,
Ireland,
not-
but
it's
Irish.
not.
I love Irish.
No,
I
in
love
the
Irish
in the third act, the
Oh,
druggie.
the doctor
Yeah.
who's like addicted to cocaine,
He
right?
is.
And he's got his
mean,
Native American friend. Hasn't
He's
he?
like
Yeah.
a massive
I like-
asshole. But
Exactly. I can't.
but I think that's
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
He is,
I think
but
that's
what's
kind of
great
the point
is that he's
a-
wrong, and he's
yeah.
starting to realise he's wrong
Well-
for some of it, and then he sort of has to go, "Oh no, I've fucked up a bit too much here. I'll just leave."
He was just too annoying.
Yeah, and the best character in the game is only in like 3 missions with him, and it's Nastas, who is just like he's just a gem. He's just a great character who just wants to help others. He's putting up with all this bullshit from Dr. McDouglas or something.
I think it is McDouglas.
Yeah, and
think it
he
is
just doesn't make it. You know, he gets red-deaded, and
There's a lot of good characters though, isn't there? That's
Yeah, there is. And I think my favourite
Some-
characters
yeah.
are pretty much all in the first act. I love London Ricketts. I love Landon Ricketts.
is
He's probably my favourite character
Mm.
after the first act because I don't really get the same sort of.
Landon Ricketts is mine.
I don't like the characters as much as I do in the first act. I really like Bonnie. I think she's a great character. I love her father as well. I love Marshall Johnson. I love the deputy Jonah. I mean, he's a great character.
Would
as
you
well.
say they are too archetypey though? Like 'cause
Yes, yes.
each character is like a pastiche of the Western
Mm.
genre, and that's the genius.
But
of the
my
game.
main issue, and this definitely comes in the second act when you go down to Mexico, is that a lot of the characters tend to become massive stereotypes of each other, and it ends up being, for me, slightly racist. In fact, especially when you
Oh,
go to
God,
Mexico,
yeah,
a lot
in Mexico.
a lot of the Mexican people are very stereotypically Mexican. Yeah, like the first 3 guys that he meets, the first 3 Mexican men that he meets, are all.
well, other than the like 100 or so that he.
Oh yeah,
bullets.
sure. You mean getting across the
Yeah.
river? Yeah, that's very true.
Oh,
I mean,
that mission.
what? I mean, they're just wildly stereotypical, and it's the same with the people that you do missions with in the second act as well. So, again, you have to remind me of the names. Is there a guy called Reyes?
Reyes, yeah.
Yeah, Reyes. You've got the captain of the
Captain.
the government
Elende?
government arm. Yeah,
I
thank
totally
you.
pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, and well, yeah, I think you might have done, but then
Midori.
and yeah, they're just all. I mean, the missions are good. I do like the missions, and I think you notice as a step up in difficulty as when you get to the second act, and you don't notice it as much when you go to the third act. I think things start to mellow down slightly, but when you go to Mexico, I think that's when the game is at its hardest.
No, I noticed the difference because for the first act, my combat strategy, I call it the crab. It's you get out a pistol, you crouch, and then you walk side to side, and they just don't hit you, and you shoot them in the head.
Yeah, they've all got
And by the-
stormtrooper aim.
Yeah, and then that's why I really hated the mission where you get into Mexico, because there's just not enough room to do the crab.
Yeah, I know. Because a lot of the missions, you don't have a lot of space to work with, do you? Like a lot of them, you're on a train or you're on horseback defending a train. Is basically most of the missions. Or when you're with Louisa, which
On the
is
train.
Reyes' wife.
All the great missions revolve
Wife
around
is a
trains
bit-
and minecarts.
Yeah.
Wife is a bit of a generous term.
Oh, wife is a very, very generous term. She's faithful. He's not so much. But
You mean
her
Laura?
missions, sorry.
You mean Laura?
I thought you said you mean Bora. What the fuck? And her missions are very good because they often involve escorting someone within an allotted time, don't they? And I think that really can
And
put you under
that's
pressure.
also
and I like
interesting because that's like that's the one mission that's like that in the whole thing.
Mm.
It's the only one where the clock appears.
that. Yeah.
And,
And there's more than
usually
one
you'd
as
have-
well with her, isn't there? I think there might be two, maybe, possibly three.
Yeah,
I
but
think
there's
I'm-
only one where a clock appears, and that's because usually in games like where they have one sort of you've got a race from here to here sort of thing with this person. Usually you'd have like 3 or 4, and it just gets so more difficult, and it's just the same thing.
Mm.
So I'm glad this one only had one like that. It actually had enough of a
There's
repertoire, I guess, with missions.
a similar thing in Deus Ex Human Revolution. The first thing, like you do the prologue, and then you've got to go and deal with a hostage situation. And if you you're in like a big hub area, and you get told, Adam, we need you now quickly. And if you start exploring for like 20 minutes over the Tanno, they're like, it's getting worse. We're losing hostages. So like the mission becomes like way harder if you don't go straight away, which is quite cool. But Deus Ex is like known for like you can completely fuck up the story if you want.
Before I
That's
ask
good.
you guys what you like about the game, I'll also mention that I think the dialogue in the game is excellent. It's especially in the parts of the game where you've met a character that you're doing a mission with, and you're in the transition to that place. I think the conversations they often have can be quite quite interesting, and they often involve giving a bit more backstory about why things start in the first place. Like when you're in Mexico and you're hanging out with the characters on opposite sides of the conflict, you start to hear how they believe it started, and what they think of the other side, and it's nice to hear the two conflicting views. It's really, really quite cool.
There's a genuine argument, like, because this isn't just me, this is like a lot of people, that John Marston is the greatest character in a video game. Because it's an industry in its infancy. It's quite easy to make. Like, I think Landon Ricketts is up there as well.
Yeah, Landon Ricketts is
Being
excellent.
an incredibly well written character.
For sure. At the moment, I can't think of any drawbacks, but I will probably think of some as this goes on. But Tony, do you want to say what you really, really liked about the game?
I quite like the third act. So you talking about the dialogue, and it made me think of how a lot through the beginning, his strategy is he helps someone in some way, which is some random crazy loon that he's met, and so therefore they owe him, and so he has to use them, and it's sort of like a thing where he goes around and in each area he gets the help of some buds and he completes the main sort of story beat. So the beginning is the incredible setup to Fort Mercer, which I really like. The missions with Irish to get the gun.
Were you questioning like why you were doing that? Were you like, why am I helping all these people? And then it comes together.
I think it would have been better if there was a way because John Marston obviously knows what he's working towards, and you as the character don't, as the player don't, which is kind of weird.
He points out, I feel, a lot along the way, or perhaps it's the way I did
kind of
the
vague,
missions.
though,
'Cause
that's
I
a good thing
did them
as
in
well.
a weird way.
That's
So
a
it was just a bit where what's his name, the Wes Dickens, just sort of put, Irish hasn't got any bullets for that gun of yours. I've not got a gun with Irish yet. I've met him for the first time. He's told me he's going to get me a gun, but he hasn't got me a gun yet. So you're telling me once I get the gun, I'm not going to have bullets for the gun?
Yeah, there was a random bit where I just went up to Irish and started on the mission. He's like, the gun doesn't work, and he was like really mad at him. I was like, when I just got the gun, you're telling me it doesn't work. Anyway, but
I think the most notable bit with me was in Mexico, because I did all of the missions you
Land
could
and
do
Ricketts.
for all of the land and rickets, and then all of those ones first. And then there's just a bit where he like turns to me and goes, "Ah, you're working for the government." I'm like, I've not even met the government yet. Yeah, and then I showed up to the government, did one mission, and then did like the rest of the missions you can do for the Mexicans, and which ends with you rescuing Reyes from prison. And then I like go back to the government. They're all like, "Hey, you're our friend, aren't you? You're so very nice. We're gonna capture Reyes." It's like, you already did, and I freed him. Nobody noticed that.
The way I did those was I did Land and Ricketts, and then the Mexican missions with Allende, whatever his name is, the guy that you with DeSanta, right?
Oh, DeSanta.
I love
That's
DeSanta.
his fucking
Your boy.
name.
I did those sort of back and forth, right? And then I did all of those, and it gets to the bit where you've completed all the Mexican missions. And so they're like, all right, this is the final mission. We'll tell you what you need to know. And then the mission, the quest chain ends. Like, they didn't tell me what I need to know. So at that point, it sort of made sense for me to then go and do all of Louise's missions, where I changed sides and free. And free.
I guess we've all got a similar problem,
Reyes.
because as soon as you go into Mexico, you're closest to Land and Ricketts, so you go do his mission.
And also,
first.
he's the coolest guy.
Can we
He's the
please
coolest
talk
guy
about
ever.
going into Mexico? 'Cause that is the best bit.
It's very good.
After the mission.
What time of day did you all run into Mexico with
I
that
was
music
like-
playing?
I had a sunrise.
Oh,
I think
that's
I-
so good.
I
wish
think
I
I
had
had
that.
sunset. I think so. It was
Like,
very
that's
orangey.
just as good. I
Like,
just
the
had
sun was
sun.
setting as I started the Irish mission, and then it was night, and then just as I came, it was morning. It's just
Oh, that is perfect.
See, for me, I didn't get that moment because it had taken me ages to actually do the mission, because there's just so many people you have to
it's
kill.
really fucking long.
Yeah, and they're all
it's
launching
ridiculous.
dynamite at you as well. And sometimes it
It's
hits your boat.
ridiculously long. I don't get why we decide to cut it. We should just go across, walk over, and then fight
Yeah,
our
you're
way
right.
through.
It's like you should be doing this, but instead he does this, and he just goes
He
all the way.
he
It's like, why?
extends the length of fighting you have to do with that. So the plan you have just is terrible. You should just continue with what you're doing. Anyway, I had to be somewhere like 10 minutes before that mission ended. So just the moment it was over, I was just like, no, fuck this. I just sort of ran off to the nearest place I could save and like shut down and went away. And of course, when I loaded it back up, I got, because it automatically puts you on the horse. So I had to get off the horse, and then that meant I'd lost the moment.
Speaking of terrible plans, you know which mission really annoys me? The one with Louisa, where you've got to plant the mines on the track.
I love that.
And no, I do love it, but you're meant to detonate the mines, and she tells you to detonate it as soon as the convoy comes, and you're like, no, I want to wait for them to go as far as possible so that all of the convoys on the track, and then set off.
It's because they detonate one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the worst thing is,
But it just doesn't make sense to like detonate
No,
the first one. The first one
she
comes
goes
out.
like, "You're too soon." It's like, what are you talking about?
He's killed all of them.
You missed them, and then I do it, and they all die. And I'm just like, oh, well done. Oh, for God's sake! It's a massive open world. Like, you've got to appreciate the scale of the game.
Oh yeah, they
It's
must
good
have
to have
spent
these
a very long time designing the entire world, for sure.
Speaking of the
So much of
entire
it.
world, I had a very confusing moment of when I went into Mexico, and I was like, okay, I'm in Mexico as a second act. I guess I'm in a different map now. And so for the bit where, whenever I was fast traveling in Mexico, I only ever traveled between Chuparosa and the other place, wherever the government are. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm in a separate map zone. And I also never looked at the top half of my map somehow. So I was like, oh, that must be the top half of Mexico, and I'm going to explore that. And realised that Mexico is actually just right next to the place you've been the entire game. And then I had the same thing when I went into Blackwater, and I realised that, that's just been here the whole time.
I noticed Blackwater was there right from the first area.
Yeah.
But the really clever thing is that, in terms of narrative perspective, it never gives you anything to do in those areas. So you never go there. So the fact you're in like the heart of the Old West, even though you get conversation, especially the really hand-fisted conversation at the start when you're on the train, and you have the couple the woman behind you's like, there's flying birds in the sky or whatever, metal birds. But yeah, and you're like, okay,
I like that.
It's the death
comes
of the
back at
West.
the end.
But I really like the fact that because you never go there, once you've been to Mexico, you come back to America, and it's not the America you were in before. And like there's cars, and it's just, and like the
It's
gun
a new age, isn't
the
it?
gun you get given is like a gun you would
Yeah.
recognise now. And it's just it's a
cool,
like
man.
because Mexico's way
That's
too
why
long.
you spend so much in Mexico,
Yeah,
so that this
it's way too
time
long.
goes on.
But the sort of, I think the problem is they want from a narrative perspective, Marston has to lose his way. He has to go, why am I doing this anymore? But to do that, you have to make the player do it. So you have to like waste the player's time with like pointless
Yeah.
missions.
But when you say that,
Yeah.
there are a lot of pointless songs. It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
here, Square. Just do this one last thing for me, please. And 2 minutes later, oh yeah, now we're gonna do this. Can I show you how to
But
Square?
I think the game knows because it is like they're
Yeah.
deliberately getting more ridiculous. It gets to the point where I wish there was a cut. Well, like at one point when you're like on top of a train, like fucking like shooting guys left and right. I wish there was like a cutscene where John Marston just looked at himself and was like, "What am I doing?"
yeah. It does get to the point where it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous that you question yourself. I mean, will you just take me to Javier Square?
But GTA games like that as
No, I
well.
think-
Like
Yeah, I don't
they're
play GTA
always
very much.
so ridiculous, but that's the point.
But what I like, especially in, I think Mexico is the best bit, though. I feel like they could add more.
Not in
to-
Mexico.
Well, not as in more missions, but just more to the feeling of the rebellion against the government.
Oh yeah,
There's,
more
there's-
fights.
there's a lot more they need to add to that, so it just doesn't feel like
Mm.
you're doing everything. But anyway,
But that's
I had a point here.
it's a problem with
I've
open
forgotten
world games. They often feel like it's hard to make it feel like a real world.
it. Mm.
Often they feel like they're just waiting for you to go, so you can trigger an event.
You okay?
I'm joking about.
You're the one person who's been outed for secretly eating chocolate fingers through this
Got them as a
podcast.
Christmas present for work. Basically, I feel like a lot of the time when you're going past on your horse, there'll be an event going on. There'll be an attempted stagecoach robbery, but the game isn't really It's programmed for you to notice it immediately, stop and get off your horse. So you'll start riding along, and suddenly you'll just miss the event. Like I think a lot of the spontaneous things that happen aren't very well implemented.
Yeah,
But
so
it's probably 2000. Sorry, it's probably 2010. Sort of. That's why I'm really looking forward to the sequel because the spontaneous. I think they're going to nail that.
yeah. There's with a lot of those, you just like you continue on, and then it's just like, oh shit, I've got to do this. I've got to rescue this guy quickly. Oh, he got shot. He's dead. There's no point in me going there. Okay. And in some of them, I also sort of went, right, let's shoot all of these guys. Oh shit, I'm meant to be saving one of them. Whoops.
The honor system's a bit. I have a good, but you get good stories like.
Flowers for a lady.
No, not that. That's a side quest. We'll get onto them probably. But there was the little stories you met yourself, and those stupid little. I had to stop someone who stole a horse car.
Mhm.
And I didn't. What you normally do is you normally tag the marker, so it tells you which way to go.
Thank
But it said I just like suddenly it just said I didn't hear it because I was riding along, enjoying myself. It suddenly went stop the stagecoach driver, and two just passed me at the same time. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to take a gamble. So I chased him for ages. Ended up killing him and lost honor. I'm like, that's the wrong one, isn't it?
Yeah, what I did
Yeah.
once is there was a policeman who his carriage crashes down and the prisoners escape, and there's a choice where it's capture them alive or kill them. And the thing that happens is that's the sort of mechanic in the game if you can choose to be non-lethal or something. Points. I thought they could have done more with that because of the first time it's introduced, you can shoot people on the leg, but that doesn't really come back. Sometimes shooting someone on the leg is a
that's
kill
what
shot.
you do before you get your lasso.
yeah.
That actually, that's annoying because it's like,
Yeah, I feel like-
there might be this whole thing. Oh no, it's just for this one mission.
Maybe if the controls for lassoing and non-lethally doing it had been better, they could have done more with morality.
I did
Yeah.
a lot of lassoing people though.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit because one of my losing honor stories, but in a funny way, is because there's the sort of like side missions where you meet one of the ladies from the train, and she's just in the desert being weirdly religious, and she clearly needs to be taken home. You like do a few things, and then that's just like the end of it. I was like, oh no, I'm taking you to the nearest town. Just lassoed her, put her on the back of my horse, got on it, kidnapped her by accident.
Oh, yeah.
I just run to the nearest town, and then
Talking
just a
about
bounty
things
hunter
that you-
comes and
Talking
tries
about
to kill
things that you
me.
do by accident, often when I do missions, and you're trying to save someone, a sheriff's there, or some person of the law, and you accidentally shoot them by mistake, and then you
Oh,
are
no.
on the police, so you can't even complete the
The
mission.
checkpointing system is terrible.
Yes.
The amount of times I was returning someone's horse and was driving towards them with the horse, and
Oh my
got
God,
off the horse,
I did
and the
this.
horse would ride into them like a heat-seeking missile
Oh.
and knock them
Oh,
over.
that's so true.
It's like Snatch the freeze
No,
frame.
the best parts about knocking people over with your horse, though, is that it's not a crime, but it's enough to sort of make the NPC aggressive towards you. So I once had a policeman follow me all the way out of Blackwater, and just as he was hitting me with his gun, and I was just walking.
Yeah.
Just,
Okay, so
killed him in the
you
middle
know
of a
you-
forest outside of Blackwater.
You were talking about the prisoners thing. I
Mhm.
did a bit of a Jonathan, and my brain just confused prisoners and slaves. I thought this is really interesting. These slaves are broken free. I can either give them back to this guy who's a slave trader and get money, or let them go and do the honourable thing. And they lost honour. I was like, oh, they were prisoners, aren't they?
Yeah. What I did
Shit.
is when I went.
It's not very clear, is it?
I
a lot
went
of the time?
out of my way to do the non-lethal option of lassoing them. I mean, shooting them in the foot, obviously, because I'm a sadist. But, or masochist, whatever. But anyway, shot them in the foot, lassoed them, and then presented to them, carried them, slow as fuck, carrying people over your shoulder,
Yes.
drop them, and the policeman just shoots them in the head
I
when they're on the ground. And so I just shot the policeman.
I remember
On a minus 100.
you know some of the story missions you could only play at night. So I was just bored.
That's the
And
worst thing in the
instead
game.
of running back
Yeah.
and sleeping and seeing if it was time, I decided to just test the AI. So when in Blackwater, I was just going up to the policeman. I was trying to get arrested. I was seeing what you could get away with. And if you annoy NPCs too much, you get sent to jail, but you don't have a crime. They just send you to jail. Because I was just throwing dynamite down and blowing it up. I wasn't destroying anything. I was just doing that to scare people. And they sent me to prison. I was charged $5.
Fucking terrorist, Harry.
I mean, I was just minding my own business, throwing a bit of dynamite,
You going against the Second Amendment, right to bear dynamite.
Oh, the bar fights are so much fun as well. Have 4 of the whiskies and then just punch someone,
Oh,
and
it's
it's
so
the
fun.
it's the most
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
thing.
Have you guys ever had it? You probably haven't, because this is the kind of stupid, arsehole thing that I would do, where you shoot someone for no reason, and you have a witness, and I chase that person down, and I shoot that witness, but then there's another witness
Yes.
who sees me shooting this witness.
And Harrison
I
Ford-
chase that guy down, and I shoot that witness, but someone's seen that witness shoot... hang on, someone's seen me... Someone has seen me shoot this witness, shoot that witness, shoot this witness, and you end up just not caring. And then, do you know what happens? He fucking tells the police, and they're chasing you for a while, and it's like, why?
What I love is just how when you put on a bandana, you are untouchable.
Yeah,
There was just a bit
I
where I
know,
went
I know.
to the Mexican government place and just killed all the guards there. It's amazing just because you
It's the
begin
best
to learn
disguise.
how the
No
guards...
one knows who you are. You don't
Yeah.
you don't lose any honour as well doing it. It's fantastic.
And you also begin to learn where the guards spawn. It's just ridiculous that you leave a
Yeah,
room, you go
yeah.
back into it, and they're back there,
Yeah,
looking over their dead bodies, going, "Who did this?"
They have a weird re-zero moment. I've been here before.
It's really annoying though, in the fact that I think GTA 4, which came out at a similar time, has this problem where the character in the game is a man seeking redemption. So in GTA 4, he's a criminal that's come over to America and is trying to escape the criminal life, like Michael in The Godfather Part 3. But in this game, John's doing the same thing. So the player just shooting a bunch of people, it just doesn't work. It's almost like
I think
it doesn't suit the character, does it?
to go with the motivations of the character, right? I think it works because it's almost a weird thing of what the player wants to do and what John Marston wants to do are completely opposite, right? And so he wants to get away from this life of being an outlaw, and you want to do it, and that's kind of
Yeah.
what drives the
Yes,
game.
yes,
And so when
yes.
it gets to the Farming Simulator 2010 part of the game, where that swaps again, and you're doing what John Marston wants to do, but it's boring as fuck because you're
Yeah.
shooting elk with this kid you don't care about, and this weird pervy old man that's in your farm for some reason.
It's your fucking...
His uncle.
He's not his uncle who's
Yeah,
a
he was an old man when you were a
He's a
kid.
pervy old man, though. That's
He's just
so
why is he here? And John Marston is loving it, But you're just I don't care.
cute.
I really did. I love the end of Red Dead
I
Redemption.
I like the
I
like the
love how
end.
it slows down. One of my favorite, I think my favorite mission of the game is when you and your wife go to Bonnie's farm and just go back.
No, it becomes Housewives of New Austin.
Yeah, but the
Oh my
dialogue is
God.
just so good. I
You're
love
absolutely right, Tony. That is what it is, though. You know
The
it
characters
is.
are so well written. It's like Abigail.
I get it. I get it.
Abigail Monster's a brilliant character.
I think it should. Hang on, 2 seconds. It
Sorry.
should be there.
Thank you.
No, don't apologise. It should be
Thank
there.
you.
That part of being at the farm, yeah. But the fact that the game's not over once you kill Dutch van der Linde means you think there's something more as a catch. I'm not quite getting it, and something bad's going to go wrong. So you kind of foresee his death.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
I like the end, which is the death, and
Yeah,
the
Dutch
end
is-
at
it's
the
an excellent
end.
scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the pre-end.
Oh yeah. Okay, fine.
That's like building up to the end.
One of my favourite scenes is when you're with the head of the FBI, but they're never called the FBI.
Agent Ross.
Agent Ross, and it's after you've killed Dutch and the body is down there because he's jumped off, and he just goes, "Give me your gun." And he's like, "Is it gonna kill me?" You know, Hamilton shoots the body and just
It
like,
looks
"Is
better
he
on
gonna
paper.
shoot?" Yeah, he says that. And then I still don't know why he doesn't. I guess because for the sake of paperwork, you have to still be alive to have killed. But then he could still have just got out his own gun and shot you. I think that's. I don't know why he lets you walk away. Gives you a few months to potentially set up.
That's a very good point. But I think the fact this might be a bit far fetched, but Agent Ross is set up as a massive arsehole, right?
Yeah.
And I think what he wanted was for Marston to reset himself and think that
I
his life is going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And then after a couple of weeks or so, come back and say, "Hey, sorry, you can't live a normal life. I'm going to fucking kill you now." It's a very dickhead thing to do because it's very misleading. But I think that's what he was trying to do.
The final side quest, which is a brilliant mission where you end up meeting everyone who knows Agent Ross as you're going to kill him, and you hear them talking about him.
You begin to question.
He does it because he believes it's the right thing, but he seems more, judging by what they say, he seems more of a, "I'll do this the best way, the simplest way." I don't think he's the sort of person who would screw around with emotions.
I thought you were going to make it different. I thought when you were saying about when you're Jack at the end of the game, you're going to the annoying thing is as well when you're Jack and you do quest that John was halfway through, it just makes no sense. But, when you're talking to all the people and like he's like, "Oh no, he's doing this," you begin to question why you're doing it because he's an old man, he's retired. And then when you do it, the words Red Dead Redemption, because that's what it is. Like, you probably shouldn't have kill Agent Ross. You should just let him live. But
I like the final shot that is Red Dead Redemption. But the guy Edgar Ross is just kind of an arsehole for the sake of an arsehole.
Exactly.
And it's just like,
It's like he's filling the stereotype of being the FBI arsehole, and so is his deputy.
His deputy's alright, actually.
Oh, is he?
I really like.
It's been a very long time since I played this game. A lot of it might not be as I remembered.
Alright, this is me getting into something here, but what should have been the final moment, or ish moment, where he says like, "Come on, let's go annoy someone else." Such a good closure of that arc. What a great moment. And then there's another sort of walking into Mexico moment, and me not understanding the map moment of where you're riding on the horse and music starts playing as you go to Beach's Hope, and I'm like, this was here the whole time. No, it wasn't. They must have done some weird teleport thing, and I've gone to a separate area of the map. Don't know why I have this obsession with going to a separate area of the map. And then I'm like waiting for the credits, and oh no, fuck! Secret fourth act of the game.
I really like that fourth.
If you haven't got to that part of the game yet, can you go to Beach's Hope, like say before Mexico, for instance, and will there be something there?
Yeah, but there's nothing there, so that's why
it's just an empty house.
Yeah, because your family shows up there.
I don't know when I played it the first time, I didn't notice how good a character Abigail was, but not when you meet her, but like other people talking about her. So like again with the sequel, she's a member of the gang, and I think you might get to play as come on.
Abigail probably is
Get fucked by
best
dudes. The game.
character. She's not like the coolest
Imagine
one.
You can play as 7 characters all in one. You get to be every member of the gang whenever you want.
You need a 7 directional D-pad because that's what they did in GTA 5.
But yes. Another thing with Agent Ross is that in the final scene with him where you go and start the duel, he's duck hunting. And if you look, he's swearing and he's missing as he's shooting. And when you're talking to someone, you sort of hear something that implies that his aim has been off. He's no longer good at shooting, which was one of the things he was at least reasonable at. And you begin to realise that he really is. He's an old retired man who can't do this anymore, which makes it even more interesting that you go and shoot him in a duel.
Yeah, but I hate the dueling system. It's just
of the game in general.
How do you do it?
You just draw and then you shoot at them.
It's
quite garbage.
Yeah,
what do the 2 bars mean?
Exactly.
And if you look up
I
online,
always try to
it's
disarm.
got this ridiculous complex system of how many. Oh, if you press this button, you're raising your hand slightly, you'll have mortar. Basically, all it is you just press the shoot button at any part of them, preferably their head, and it will fill up the bar more.
And you've got to mash it a little bit so that you do as many shots as possible in the given time.
Did you do the Hollywood mission?
What's the Hollywood?
The Hollywood missions where you've...
I started on Undead Nightmare, the Hollywood mission.
But there's one in the game where you've got to sort of make a film. You've got to assemble like a film crew.
I watched the film.
You have to get an
You're joking. Marston's got to assemble a film.
Pretty much. You've got to get an actor.
He's got to get Humphrey Bogart or something like that.
Someone's recording you and you've got to disarm someone. And like that's the thing. But you have to do it as a duel. But the problem is...
Do you shoot the actor?
You have to shoot his hand. But you shoot his hand, but then he's going to kill you unless you keep shooting. But then if you keep shooting his hand, you're going to kill him. So it's like, this duel, it's really bad. It's a really bad system. You should do like the FIFA penalty thing, where you've got to just aim.
Momentum. You need to shake that Wiimote.
Oh, you should score from anywhere.
Talking about that, just the final shot of Red Dead Redemption, where you have a freeze frame, and then the word Red Dead Redemption really. I already said this before outside of the podcast, that it really reminds me of the spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood, and it's very, very nostalgic for me. I think that's why I like the game so much, is the fact that, I know I've already said this as well, I feel like I'm playing a film.
Yeah,
and that's never bad for me. Like, the scale of everything is so detailed and so extensive that you feel like you're in a genuine world right here, where everything has been decided, and everything has been written well, and it's just so fun. And I feel like I'm playing as Clint Eastwood, except I'm not. I'm playing John Marston. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the game so much.
John Marston's an idiot, though. Can we just point that?
No, he's not. I love John.
No, come on. In the scene where the government betrays him, where literally when he's being driven there, he just like basically elbows DeSanta and goes, "Hope you don't betray me like you did last mission." And then it's just like, you need to say, why would he? And he's literally going the whole thing like, why would he be in this church? He like walks into this church. Oh my god, look, this church is empty. DeSanta goes, "I'm sorry, John Marston, but I'm betraying you." And you're like, what? And then you stand there just sort of long enough looking at him going, wait, you surely don't mean that. You're betrayed. Just enough time for the guy to walk up you, hit you in the back of the head. And then after, DeSanta's also an idiot. He's dragged you out to this porch for no reason. He just had to shoot you in the back the moment you were there. But no, he's dragged you out to this porch, sort of goes, "I'm going to kill you." I'm not sure I made that quite. But
see,
oh no,
Mexico
Reyes
is the worst act of the game because it's just ridiculous.
Farming simulator section is the worst.
Reyes shows up, and then it becomes a firefight in which you've got your hands tied, but you can run perfectly through the battle without getting shot, even though you're in the middle of a firefight.
That's pretty fun. It's like the beginning of Skyrim.
You've got to accept. I don't know, because Red Dead is half really well written, like serious game, and half just stupid.
Yeah, that's probably my main problem.
That's
with
Rockstar
it,
style.
That it just doesn't work. I think that it's this kind of gritty thing, and yet you're killing millions upon millions of people, and there's no space for them, and then it's just. I mean, the combat isn't really fun.
It's like people in like Nathan Drake's a great character in Uncharted, but you kill like thousands of people. Like, this guy's a psychopath.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it's not the fact that you kill hundreds. It's just that the way that it does the battles is just like, I guess we'll chuck in like 100 more people. Even when you're like in the first act and you're fighting Williamson's crew, you kill much more people than could ever fit in that castle. It just when the sheriff's team is like 5 people, and then you're whenever you go to like any gang, they're like it's a ridiculous number that just doesn't feel realistic. They should.
Can we keep the John Marston's an idiot thing going? When at the start of the game, he just goes up to Bill Williams' castle. What's his plan?
You're just gonna reason with him. He's gonna talk him to coming down.
Then he's just like,
oh my god, he shouts everything.
Yeah,
in his tactic of the first act of the game of being really mysterious, and like Bonnie calls him out on it. It's like, is being mysterious your substitute for a personality? And like, that's really well done.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few good lines, but I don't think I liked the dialogue in the first half. It was just too much, especially between them. Just like, oh, you're mysterious, aren't you? Yes, I am mysterious. We really are mysterious. Yes.
Sorry if I'm being
It's a
kind
shame
of
you say that because I really like
enigmatic.
dialogue. That's one of the high points for the game.
I think
It gets better.
don't like westerns that much. I think that's what I'm getting to realise looking back at this game.
It's
I
an
don't
acquired
like that
taste.
I think
style
the
of
coolest-
dialogue.
I will admit that it's something that you've got to be. It's something that you've got to be raised liking. And if you're 17 years old and you're watching a western or playing a western for the first time, it's quite hard to get into. It's
I think something that sums it up really well is like towards the end of the third act, one of the FBI agents, he goes on this whole speech about freedom or whatever, and it's like
That's a great speech.
and he's like, oh man, and then John Moss like, what the fuck was that for? And he's like, I don't know, but it just felt cool saying it. I'm like, yeah, that sums up a lot of this game of how like it just has these cool ideas as like a
See,
backdrop
I
about
especially
freedom
like that
and about
moment
Yeah,
order.
because
yeah,
it was
yeah.
night outside and just like about to begin the final mission, and just with the
Final
final mission of like
Final mission.
what
Which
felt
one?
like the final
Before the
mission.
farming
I think that's
section.
before you go. And,
You've really
like,
got it out for the farming simulation.
I love
section,
the
haven't you?
farming.
I think that's
No,
one
I
way
agree with
you
you.
think
It's
you're about
really
to get Dutch or something.
And does he go into Beater's Hope?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, he was
But yeah, yeah, because it was night and it really did feel like the right moment for a late night sort of speech about freedom. That worked at that moment
Because there are so many characters, and the game isn't brave enough to just like every character has to know everything about Joe Marston. So every time you meet a new character, you have to listen to Joe Marston explain his situation to them.
Yeah,
That's
so
like,
true.
You should just have
Just
have
one
like a
of-
business card at that
yeah,
point.
yeah.
Let's see
It's
Paul
very true.
Marston's card.
So actually, yeah, Johnny raises a very good point a minute ago when he said that where all these characters come from. There's a mission I'm thinking of, and it's actually probably my favourite from Mexico, and it's where there's that castle on the top of a massive canyon, and you work your way like a rotation to the top of it, and all these men, you're right, you kill hundreds of men, and there's no way that many of them fitted in this small castle. Just it's really not that big at all. There's no way that
Yeah,
they
it's a
all
video
fit.
game.
And
It's
another
fun.
thing is
Yeah,
just
yeah,
what
it is.
what has Irish done? That he's not
Children.
even set a foot in Mexico. He's just
Irish.
on the river,
Yeah,
and
that's
already
funny.
half of Mexico.
That's
Yeah.
really
Because I'm
fun.
Irish, so that's
I know,
really
That's
funny.
really
I
funny.
don't like
Just
your dad in
setting up-
Mexico.
I'm just like,
Any
you know,
problems
they
with
don't
like the tone? It's just you don't have a problem with Red Dead Redemption. You have a problem with Rockstar Games because that's what they do.
Yeah, this is the first one I've played.
Yeah.
Because another thing I
GTA
don't
is a
really
bit
like
too
is
heavy-handed, but this is subtler.
the sort of physics of it. That I mean, the way you move is fairly
jump.
realistic, but then it's
His
also
jump.
just
Jump is
really.
amazing.
His job.
Yes, it's so. His jump
Speaking
is
of
awesome.
LA Noir physics, the
Dark Souls
the
jump.
ladder
LA Noir.
climb from LA Noir. Oh my god! I like how none of us wanted to talk about this, and like how long have we been going on this
I
one
actually
game?
love this game. I've forgotten how much.
I
really
mean,
liked
I have
it.
nothing to say about Inception really. This is the
Oh,
one.
I've got loads.
but
to
yeah,
say.
what you were saying about Marston as how he's an idiot, and I'm like, the greatest weakness of every video game character is cutscenes, because they can beat the boss fight, right? But they'll pull the video game donkey Xenoblade 2
Yeah.
thing of like, win the boss fight, losing the cutscene trick, and so I like how the game ends, even though I say ends is like a very loose word for this game. Ends where it's the you've got to Deadeye and it's like 1 billion people and it's like you can't make it all. And you just get,
Well, that moment is incredible. We
That's a
haven't
really
even
cool
we haven't even
minute.
talked about that moment.
that's a really cool moment. Yeah.
What moment is this? Sorry.
Where you
John
die.
Marston's death.
Oh yes, it's very good. It's very good.
Because you think because of the fact that you said that there's hundreds of guys coming along, and you think,
Yeah.
well, I've taken on these many guys. But the fact is, he eventually
The
his
realization
lifestyle
that you can't
catches
run
up
away
with him.
from them. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and he sort of accepts.
He
it.
sort of realised that there's no way he was ever going to go back to the life that he had before. Is there? There's something quite sad about it.
Also,
I still think that if you really were a Red Dead master, you'd be able to deadeye all those men. I still think
if
you'd be
you
able
I
wanna
to.
think
de-
it's a
if you-
maximum of 7.
if
or
you want to
something like
deadeye
that.
none of them, go for Ross straight away, and you just die
Mm.
because you can't kill him, obviously.
Oh, it's a shame.
That's what I tried to do the second time I played it. I was like, I'm just going for Ross.
I know. If we're going to move on to Inception, I just want to say another thing really quickly. One of the things I loved about Mexico was I think it does a really good job of blurring the line between what's right and what's wrong, because both sides are just as worse as the other, but in their mind, the other side is much worse than them. And there's this rebellion that started, and they're trying to free Mexico from their oppressive government. But they really are just as bad as them, and the way they go to trying to achieve that is awful. And Marston gets caught up in it, and oh god, he is such a patient character, because he gets
Yeah,
he gets manipulated so easily. He's like, yeah, do this thing for me. I'll show you where Javier's going to raise afterwards, and it's happened like 100 times.
Yeah, you realise it doesn't actually make sense for either the rebellion or the government to actually help John Marston, because he's this ace gunman who helps them out if they promise him they'll show him where Esquila is. But if they, because John Marston is completely open about, like, oh yeah, once you tell me, I'm out of here. But they don't want him out of here. They want him fighting the battle. That's another reason why John Marston is stupid, because he's just like, oh yeah, I want you to do this thing for me, but the moment you do it, I lose all my worth to you. Which is why I'm so surprised that one of the sides actually bothered to actually finally go.
I was going to ask, who is it actually tells him where Esquila is by the end? Reyes.
He actually is searching
because
for
because Allende was dicking you over the whole time. He just had him in his house the whole game.
Yeah. Oh god.
Oh man.
Do you think the sequel will be good? Because this is the death of the Wild West, whereas the sequel is the Wild West.
You told me, and I'm not sure if this is true, but they're doing a bit of a Godfather Part 2 where they have half of the game.
I hope they are, but they're not.
But it'd be great, isn't it? Where half of it is his
did.
son's his son's endeavours, and then the other half is Marston as a kid.
It would be fantastic if it was like Dawn of the First World War.
So what have you heard about it apart from watch the trailer? Does there anything?
Rockstar are so good at keeping things under wraps because they're the biggest games company in the world. They don't need to go to these big events. They can literally put out a tweet which is their logo and red, and it got like hundreds of thousands of likes and retweets, and that's how they announce games. And it's gonna be the gang. It's probably gonna take the GTA 5 high system, and I think it's gonna be the best game next year because it's Rockstar.
Cool.
It's gonna be great.
So, should we move on to Inception then?
Does
anyone got anything else to say?
We need to score Red Dead Redemption.
Oh,
will it get higher than Portal 2, which stands at... What is Portal 2? Is it...
Or 10, 10, 10, 9.
It's 39.
Who gave it a 9? Was it you, Jonathan?
Yeah, it was. Well, I can tell you already, it's going to be less than Portal.
Nothing will beat Portal 2 because it's the best game ever made. It's so good, I spent £5 on some shitty app because it's Portal themed. Alright.
Shall I say what I think?
Yeah.
So...
Let's leave Johnny last because he always underscores now.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to give this game a 10 out of 10. And I want to say that this is because I haven't played very many video games, and the ones that I have played are very, very good because you guys have suggested them. So I don't really have anything to compare it with in terms of bad video games apart from like Sonic 06, which I secretly think is an amazing game. And I can't wait to talk about that. But yeah, I'll give this game a 10 because I don't really have a lot to compare to, and I think it's great, and I feel like I'm playing a film. And as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with that.
Who suggested it for you?
I think it was. You know who I think it was? I think it was Richard, who you met just the other night.
Oh, really?
Because he has it on PS3, and he said it's a great game, you should buy it. And I was like, okay, cool.
It is a 10 out of 10. Tony?
Yeah, well, just putting this out there, I think I may be dropping the 10 out of 10 for everything gag. I'm sorry, but I think there might be something that coming up that will be a massive inconsistency if we have this going for the media podcast. But anyway, Red Dead it's a really well made game. It's so encapsulates that fantasy of being a cowboy up until it starts encapsulating the fantasy of being a farmer, but that's not my point. That's not my deal. That's not my beef. But it's just the moments of where you're riding and you will just the bits where the music plays, the two music bits that have vocals of going to Beach Hope and going into music, into Mexico, that just sell it completely. They just sell this story of John Marston. And the bits where you'll just be riding and you'll look to your left and there'll be just the sun shining and you'll just be like, yes, this is perfect. This is it shows the Wild West for all its romance of that and fantasy of that sort of story, of that sort of ideal that we've built up of cowboys and all that, and also for all the flaws of that world, of how sexist and racist it was really, and not trying to sugarcoat that in any way, just showing it like, yes, that the game is sexist
how
and racist.
Extremely violent it
because
was. Well.
It was sexist and racist. I almost said racist. That would have been really fucking ironic. But yeah, honestly, just for the few moments where I looked to my left and saw the sunset, this game's getting a 10 out of 10.
Hang on, what about you?
I'll go with a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
I think I've said enough.
Alright.
It's always up to me, isn't it, to be the dick when it comes to scoring.
Harry gave the lowest score for Valhalla.
You have a lower score for the main. Oh, I don't have a lower score. It's because that game actually offended me.
Valhalla.
No, I'm kidding.
That's still actually offending you only you gave it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah,
I
because
guess
like,
it's 'cause-
I liked like half the characters, and then the other half actually wanted to make me fucking like kill myself. So
It's like Seth.
If it's got
In the
aldehyde.
Santa. It's got benzene
Bronze
solvent.
extract.
It's got benzene solvent. Oh man, I can't believe I keep bringing that up. Sorry, Johnny, go ahead.
Anyway, so I think
Right, Moty.
when I finished this game, it was an 8 out of 10. But then afterwards, it's been some time, and the stuff that I didn't like have just increased, and the things that I
Why
liked
did I
have
open my
become
big
less
mouth?
memorable. And it's I think it's a 7 out of 10 from me. It's got some good moments, but there are moments that just irritated me, and I don't think I'll ever play it again. So
If Red Dead's a 7 out of 10, you've got some fucking brilliant games that you can play. Jesus.
It's very hard to give that game 7 out of 10.
I just-
You just did it. That must not mean anything.
I know, but if we'd done this podcast earlier, it would have given it an 8, I think. When you,
I am
It's just-
basing it on the review of, in my head, I just don't think about the farming act. I'm just like, man, up until Beach Hope, this game was
You
You
Yeah,
really
incredible.
don't like that farming
the thing is,
simulator.
though, like, if you weren't rushing it, you wouldn't have
Yeah,
thought that.
to be fair, yes, I would have liked it. I would have tolerated it more, but to me, just like, the point up until Beach's Hope is so perfect that I'm just like, yeah, I might as well just give the game a perfect score, because if I wanted to, I could have just stopped playing then.
Exactly, but even if you're rushing the game, I sort of didn't like it very much, and it's also because I felt like I was close to the game, so I felt the need to finish it as soon as possible. And
Okay, I was.
whether you feel the need, whether you're in a rush or you have all the time in the world, you still feel the need to finish that section off quickly because you can feel that you're at the end
Well,
of
the
the
section
game.
needs to end, obviously, but I think it's maybe 1-2 missions too long.
He should have died for sure, but I don't think. I don't know. Do you think it would have been cool if he'd just gone to Beach's Hope, just killed Dutch van der Linde, and then they were already waiting for him
How about
there,
he goes
and there was
there,
the final showdown there.
He goes there. You get 2 missions with your son instead of 4. 1 with your wife instead of 3.
Yeah, I'll tell you what would have
That's
been
it.
great
Okay.
if we just
3
had
missions.
missions with his son, because those are actually the best
Well,
ones
no,
from
the,
Beach's
the,
Hope.
the, the one with his wife, 2 with his sons. That's it.
The uncle
No-
didn't
no
even need
uncle.
to exist.
Yeah. Although he,
Uncle. How about the game just fades out as you go into Beach's Hope because nothing can match the expectations you've built in your head?
Do you remember how the
Well,
uncle
they've
dies
just-
as well?
Anyway.
It's a really shit death. They just don't give a crap about him, but they try and make it like a really heartfelt moment. It's fucking die already. Come on.
Or if you just end it, the bit where Ross gets you hand Ross your gun, he shoots the body a few times, then tells you they're in Beach's Hope. You turn around, perhaps even starts so you start moving the game, and then he just shoots you in the back of the head as you're walking to your horse.
That's very good, because then we would never have seen his family in the first place, actually. And
I like
then
his
that could have been like, was it all in his head? Was he dreaming?
Well,
it's
speaking
American
of,
Psycho.
you could have moved on to Inception,
And
Harry,
that's-
and you ruined
You actually could have done. That'd have been a great transition. I set that up for you or someone, and they were just like, "Oh no, it's American Psycho."
Let's just ride on into the sunset.
Right,
That
Inception,
is
shall we?
Inception.
Yeah.
Or-
Oh, that sound effect that's not in the film.
So, Inception is a film where the main premise is dreaming. So, it's in a world where going inside people's dreams to do things isn't maybe commonly available, but it's certainly an idea that people are fully aware of. And in this film, people go inside people's dreams to steal ideas or information that people have locked inside of their head. Like, I don't know, I mean, the opening part of the film is them trying to steal not codes, but some sort of classified information from a company. And at some point in the film, very early on, the main protagonist gets asked if he can do the opposite. So instead of taking an idea from someone's head, planting an idea instead, and letting that idea grow until it basically changes the way that they completely believe or perceive a certain thing. And in this group of people, there's the main protagonist, which is Leonardo DiCaprio's character. There's a lot of other
Dom Cobb.
Dom Cobb. And there's a lot of other side characters who are all very good.
A lot.
Yusuf included. I think he's my favourite.
Hot boys and girls.
And
Hot boys and girl.
No, Mal.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's Mal.
yeah,
and
but
there's-
Mal's not part of the crew though. She's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
that
yeah,
character.
sorry.
She's just a projection, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop being
I mean,
anti-projection.
they're all projections.
Projections.
Dun, dun, no.
And the idea that they're asked to incept in this person's head, and incepting mean rather than taking something, planting something instead.
It's not just the team, it's Cillian Murphy's the guy that was.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And,
Absolutely, yeah.
look
Because
at
they
the
decide
example.
halfway through that it's better to actually tell this guy that people are trying to invade his dreams because it'll be more beneficial to them.
Mhm.
So the idea that they're trying to plant into this guy's head, without really spoiling anything, is that
We're a spoiler.
We're a spoiler
yeah, but
podcast.
this gets revealed in like the first 10 minutes of the film, so it's not even the end of the world. The idea that they're trying to plant is that this guy's father is on his deathbed and he's going to.
I mean, he already is on his deathbed.
Yeah.
That doesn't. They don't have to implant that. Sorry.
No, I'm just setting a bit of backstory, and he's about to hand his corporation over to his son, and there's a rival corporation which is run by Ken Watanabe, who wants his son to dissolve his empire when it's passed to him from his father. And the idea that they want to incept is actually no, that's not really that'd be ruining it too much. But yeah, they go inside Cillian Murphy's head to try and plant this idea so that he does dissolve his father's empire, as they specify in the film as well. Okay, all right. Sorry about that really convoluted explanation for the story.
I mean, it's a
What did
convoluted
you-
film.
Yeah, I know.
If you had to-
It's appropriate, isn't it?
How about, what do you think of it, Ethan?
Well, I think it's an excellent film. It's my favourite by Chris Nolan, and that's only because I don't really like The Dark Knight as much as I used to. But it's an excellent film. It's an idea going inside people's dreams that isn't explored anywhere really, and the fact that it was done by someone like Chris Nolan, who is such a great director in the first place, it's just the perfect introduction to it. I'm sure in the future we will probably see things where people go inside people's dreams to, I don't know, do things. I'm sure he's set something for it at
Maybe
least.
Complete their last wishes.
Yeah, I know.
Mm.
It's
Go
it's
to the moon.
it's great because a film where people go inside people's dreams and continue riding the layers down should be incredibly confusing and convoluted, but actually it doesn't feel like that. Especially if you're watching the film with subtitles. Even though some people are like, subtitles, no, I can't read and watch the film at the same time. That's terrible. It's still easy to follow. I think there's never any point in the film where you're struggling to understand the storyline. They explain things very, very well and concisely, and you don't ever get the feeling like you have to rewind certain sections because you haven't understood things properly, which I really like because that could very well be an issue in this sort of film.
I mean, it throws you off a bit at the start by just having one of the later scenes just randomly as the opening. And I don't
Yeah,
feel
but that drops you straight in the action. I
yeah,
really
but that scene doesn't really add.
But it's also a Chris Nolan
considering
film.
it-
He's got to
it
mess
actually-
around with
with the
the
time.
order of time.
Okay,
But,
so
it gets in the way because
Has to be like
literally after
Megamind.
that scene, you are in the middle of the action. They're already in someone's dreams doing stuff, but you just
So would you have preferred it just started with the action?
It just
yeah, but
just
it's a
sort of
really
starts
good
with that.
transition from old to young. That's such a good transition. That's such a
Yes,
good
but
shot.
only if you don't know. But only if you know that it's Ken Watanabe. That's not really specified. From what you've actually
Oh,
seen
It
already,
goes when we
it
were
looks like
young
a
men,
random-
and then it cuts to him, and it's Leo. It's like, I think it's fairly implied.
Yes, yeah, fair enough.
But he
But
doesn't.
then Leo's not really
Leo
a young
doesn't
man.
look
He's just the
old.
same age.
Yeah, he doesn't look old in the thing. That's...
So when we were young men, so Ken Watanabe, when you were 26 and when I was an embryo, is that what you're trying to say?
yeah,
we were both
it
young
just
men.
yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't add much and can add confusion when you're first watching the film, unless you have someone to sit there and point out, "Oh no, this is a later scene. Just forget it." But you'll see it later, and
Yeah,
it'll
sure.
make sense.
Okay, so that's a very good point. But apart from that, I think
Mentor just
something.
doesn't make any sense to the end of it. I mean,
No, but
why'd they put the final scene at the start?
But that's
Oh, I
part of
see
the
where he's
storytelling
coming.
there.
Yeah,
whereas this is just like,
Yeah, but
oh,
it's-
I've got to.
It would be Chris Nolan if it was
Yeah,
chronological.
yeah,
that's
I'm
the problem.
going
It's
to go
just-
with Johnny
He's
here.
got a record that up.
He's trying to say that he's just put it in there because it's cool, but it doesn't really add any substance
Yeah,
to the film,
it's-
does it?
yeah, it's
because
not
we see that
adding
we see that scene
anything,
later on in the film anyway, don't we? So.
And it's not that when we see it, perhaps we have a bit of a moment of just, oh, that's what that scene was. But that's not like, it doesn't change anything about the film knowing that
Yeah.
scene before it happens. It just means when you get there, it's just like, oh, that's why it opened
Yeah,
like this.
I think
for
this-
no fucking reason.
The scene is so confusing. You don't even get the record scratch freeze frame. Wait, how did I get here? Moment of like, because it's just a beach and it's an old guy. Like you can't really. There's too much going on in the film for you to
I like
bother trying to work out that bit. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I sort of like the transition it has between that, where it like zooms in a thing and then zooms out, and now they're young but not young because you're only focusing on Leonardo, who is exactly the same age.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
the
but
good bits.
exactly. But apart from that, at most points in the film, when something happens
Not
that you're not
revealing.
entirely sure of, they will address that straight away and explain, well, this is why this is, without it being too professory about it, like, oh yeah, in certain
Too meta.
dreams, but yeah.
But that's
Exactly, too meta, yeah.
that's what Nolan's the master of. He's the master of taking very
Yeah,
you I was
his
the
writing
master.
his writing is so good that the explanation of why things happen feels extremely
it's him
natural.
and his brother. He manages to address very he's obviously an intelligent man who likes to read a lot.
Yeah.
So you find a really interesting idea, like about. I mean, Lucy tried to do this; it was terrible. About like how much of the brain we use in our subconscious and when we dream, and manages to like translate these ideas through a film. I think Interstellar manages to like deal with very complex issues in a way which works and is understandable. And he takes like the idea of the character of Batman and like grounds that character and basically ruins all superhero films because they'll never be as good as his own.
Another thing I really love about this film is the whole setting of it, especially when they get into the dream section.
Yes.
Every layer of the dream is very, very, very different to the layer before it and after it, and all of them together. And so you never really get bored.
You can
I mean,
tell-
they are so different.
And when it's cutting between them, you can tell which one, this is the one where it's raining, this is the one where they're in the hotel, this is the one where they've accidentally wandered into a James Bond set.
It's quite literally a layered movie,
Yeah.
as in like you have three, well not three, maybe you have two and a guy falling into water. Brilliant action movies going on at once, and they're all connected. And doing the jumps, it's just it ends up you get a fourth layer when they go into limbo, and it works so well. It's you can tell that instead of just beginning to write and take it as we go and do reshoots like a lot of films these days, you went into Inception like he probably had the entire thing mapped out in his mind, nothing. There's probably not a deleted scene in this film. It's so
because of the
tight.
fact that all of these settings are so different, it means that the pace sometimes it fluctuates quite often. It's very dynamic. In the Rain one, there's a lot of action. It's quite fast, and
But then
snappy.
it does
And
slow
then when it goes to the
down,
hotel, there is action there, but it slows down a little bit. It explains
it's
more of the story
really-
to you. It invites Cillian Murphy into the dream world.
It's
That's
impressive
brilliant.
how it
Yeah,
That
it's
manages.
very, very
I
good.
really like the scene with him and his
Oh,
father.
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a brilliant.
It's excellent.
Oh
Excellent
yes, that's so, behind the vaulted
Yeah,
door.
yeah.
That's such a good bit. I was really going to say how it's interesting how each layer down time dilates, right?
Yes.
So that really changes like the tension of a scene, of how you think if something is really constrained by time. Actually, time can be used a lot more in the layer below. So it's like, it's 1 minute here, 60 minutes in the lane below.
Yes.
Dreams
But then
below.
it also has because in the third one it takes a lot longer to get anywhere because they're in snow. So it's sort of interesting that
And
actually
Stove.
snow.
Oh,
You spend
right.
Like an
45
hour
minutes in
has
stone.
Yeah,
like
that's what I
between
was
when you
thinking.
like first see them when you next see them, it's sort of about an hour has passed and they've got basically nowhere from what you can tell.
Well, time is quite literally like a crucial part. Like the main song of the film is called "Time" for a reason. It's the fact that in limbo, times. I think the line like "We were old souls and young bodies." The fact that he's lived more than one life, and like going into dream, it completely messes around with. I think especially this in Interstellar works so well as a double bill. That film is all about the nature of time and like
Exactly,
Then you
because
should watch In
Inception,
Time.
Inception. Oh, yeah, thank you. I think we can do without that. In Inception, it's about time within dreams, and Interstellar, it's about time within space, and it's all about relativity, isn't it?
it really is. Like you
It
can
is.
tell. He's,
I mean, the guy must love Einstein. I just want to say that right now.
Special
He's a
relativity.
master.
a bit of physics.
Special relativity does get a cameo in this film. How am I going to drop you without gravity?
That is brilliant. Also, just the bits before they go into the dreams as well, like assembling the team, assembling the film crew, because that's
And they do it in such a cool way that you don't even care, to be honest, because often the assembling of the crew can be extremely boring.
It's a
It
lot
does
of
it really
time. It's
well.
just they walk into a room. I need you back on the team. I'm not going back. No, this time. One last job.
back in.
yeah, but no one ever says I'm not going back in. It's sort of
It's just-
that's why it's good.
all the character moments are quite like. I think it's just the scene where it's literally just a whiteboard with "I will break up my father's empire," and when they're trying to work out like the idea and like it's so.
But it's also because the build up to the actual heist,
Yeah,
because
'cause
it
it's
obviously
a
is a
mind
heist.
heist,
It
isn't it? Yeah,
is.
that's
It's a
brilliant.
mind heist. Is
opposed to a
really
tower
good
heist.
because they keep introducing new concepts. Like
Yeah.
one of my pet loves about this film is that each of them has their own little token thing that they use to remind themselves whether they're dreaming, whether this is reality, whether it's the dice in an exact way to it, or whether it's a spinner that will continue spinning if it's in a dream and not if it's in real life. And they keep explaining these new things that makes you stay interested in the story, basically.
And each character clearly has their own history, and they have their own relationships with each other. And the relationship between Gordon Levitt and Hardy's characters is brilliant. That's where.
Yeah, but the relationship
all
the relationship between Mal and Yusuf, I think, is my favourite thing about the film.
Yeah,
Yusuf should have been in it more.
Yeah, it is a bit annoying that Yusuf is in the first dream, so all you see him do is just like duck and drive really
and then
terribly.
mysteriously disappear when they reach the water.
He got out before. He's the
yeah,
one that wasn't asleep.
I do like that it's the sort of running of the two stories of both Leo's sort of. We always call him Leo. Leo's motivation.
Dom Cobb. You got
Yeah.
to call him Dom Cobb.
Leo's motivations as well as this heist that's going on of like trying to uncover his sort of hidden
Cade Yeager.
stories of the fact that his deceased wife is like trapped in his mind, and that's something he's dealing with as he's doing this cool tower heist, which is three minds layered in each other, and it's also a ploy about one mind. It's like so cool.
Intelligent blockbuster. There you go.
Yeah.
There's 2-word review. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, people say, the story tries to tell you about Inception and the reason why Mal killed herself, but I realised that the real reason she killed herself was because she just didn't want to have Cobb be her last name.
That's entirely possible, isn't it? She just couldn't tell him though, could she? It would have broken his heart.
So, I think
Dom Cobb, that's such a good
Who's worse, Dom Cobb or Cade Yeager? Well, what's the guy called in
in Rogue One?
No, Rogue One.
What's he called in Rogue
Galen
One?
Erso.
No,
Director Krennic.
No, the Hispanic man. What's he called?
Cassian Andor.
Cassian.
What's the guy in Face Off
good
called?
name.
Oh, he's called Castor Troy.
Castor Troy. Yeah, let's stop doing unrealistic characters' names.
Max Power is the most unrealistic name I've ever seen.
What's that from?
Simpsons.
Yeah, I know. Max Power. Anyway, great film. People say that it's one of those films where like the action is justified, and I feel like
Yes.
that's always true in every film.
That's true.
But
No,
it's
no,
in this
because-
one,
because-
you can feel good about watching an action film because you're also being like using your mind and watching people talk.
It
You
definitely
can feel like a smart,
when it came
film
out
reviewer.
in
Yeah,
2000,
yeah.
I think it's no coincidence.
It's like you're not watching iRobot, you're watching Inception, so you feel like a really intelligent person.
Yeah.
It's no
I mean,
coincidence that
that's why it's
like Inception and Portal 2 are my favourite two things, which came out within a year of each other. Because you can watch it as a 10. You can literally watch this like, especially when it came out and when you saw it at the cinema, you hadn't seen anything like Inception. And I still think even with like things like Doctor Strange, nothing rivals Inception for like in terms of scale of sort of.
Yeah,
Interstellar probably comes close.
I do think in the dreams themselves they could have done more with the line where Adrian says.
Okay,
Sorry.
No, that actually
What?
is the last time you ever
Do you
used
mean
it. because-
Ariande?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Ariande. She says, what happens when you start messing with the physics of it? And she does this incredible shot where, like, the world just folds in on itself.
Mm.
And that reminds me the most of Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
obviously took it. But the
Yeah,
thing with Doctor
but-
Strange is it was literally like, how are we going to have these big fights without killing anyone? Mirror dimension where we can fuck around with things. But it didn't serve
But
any purpose.
I feel
for
like
humanity.
in the mind realms, they could have done more with the fact of things being a dream and being, like, crazy and more, like...
Yeah,
But it feels a bit too grounded
you
to
say
be a dream, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you say that the action is sort of
Yes.
justified, but it's a bit like, oh, this person has had, dreams of security. What it means is his subconscious now has guns, and they have to deal
Yeah.
with guns.
Because it's
It should be
it's
more
3
than, like,
7 out of 10 action films running sequentially.
yeah, but it still feels, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's something to be gained that it comes up with, like, what would probably be a very abstract thing. It turns into a real thing you can show
So
instead of.
What you're really saying is that Chris Nolan should never be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling. I think that's the real message.
Yeah, because he just like he magics. The bits where people do like they magic a gun out of off screen, or they just become a different person because that guy changes his face.
all of
every
them
day.
are Tom Hardy.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the strengths over.
The fact that you can
an action
fuck with the
film.
physics, does make the action justifiable, because when you're in the hotel, I think that's got probably the best
Zero
fight
scene.
scene, because
The
the,
hotel is
gravity's
the
just
best
not
bit.
there.
Yeah, the dream has allowed. Well, the fact that this is
Yeah,
not
that's
dreams
one of the
allows
bits
for
that I
brilliant
like.
set
It doesn't feel
pieces
far fetched,
and
does it? It
things,
feels
yeah.
quite realistic.
It's-
But you are right. I mean, if this
Yeah,
person
why
can have
is-
guns, why can't you dream up a tank?
Yeah,
Why can't you
but
dream up a
it's-
fucking
it's-
nuclear
Well,
bomb? or
it
something?
makes
No,
sense because it's like
one of the
Ready
Sorry, I
Player One.
don't want to come across.
Don't want to
too
pull a
Tony.
Harry, but no, it's the thing. If they say that the more they dream, or sorry, the more they summon in, the more the dream will fight back against them, which kind of helps to explain the groundedness of the dream, if that makes sense.
Well,
It's
what
really
I'd
easy,
perhaps
Jono.
like to see. I mean, I guess it's a.
$400 million. It's like, why didn't they dream in like 17 UFOs fly away at the end?
I'm saying it was good. It was a good grounded.
Well,
film
then they
that
have
we
a
were, like,
Mexican
could-
armada, you know.
They had to like everything that
Yeah.
they do service. the
I
plot.
see why it is grounded, but anyway,
But
John,
I
go
get
ahead.
so the one because what's his name? The guy who they are trying to incept. They have
Fisher.
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah,
He's called Fisher, yeah.
yeah they
Max Fisher.
they've been trained so their mind resists this, and the way it is just by giving he has his own security force in his head, which is quite cool.
Mm.
But also, why isn't it sort of doing things like they try to open the door, but it's resisting, or like
Yeah.
you could fiddle around more with the world and have that sort of slowly going against them. Another threat is that it's not just the people that are the threat, but actually the world they're in themselves. The architect can only do so much.
Yeah, I guess
And
they.
it's because of that it feels the action is fairly justified, but it also feels a bit like, oh no, they just have guns because it's a dream, and that's what we want.
But if you go too far, it might
Yeah,
have
exactly.
might
I
make
think
it
they
way
might
too
end up
ridiculous.
they didn't want it to be
yeah,
too
the
abstract.
film
yeah.
doesn't go too out there because it tries to sort of it tries to be very ambiguous in whether it's a dream or reality at certain times. Like, there are certain scenes in which a character will realise they're dreaming, and the fact they're trying to trick people into thinking that this is reality. But even the opening of the film where he like puts his face on the carpet, and like you think that's where they actually are, but it turns out it's another dream. I mean, that's really clever.
It is. But the scene where they're in the hotel, and you can tell that the dreams are linked somehow, because the dream just above them, which is happening in rain, and they're being thrown about, you can feel that the next dream down, because I can't quite remember.
the weather.
But the weather is being a bit
See, when
strange.
their faces get splashed with water, when the guy who's dreaming its face gets splashed with water, it starts raining on the outside in his world.
But Fish didn't notice until Dom Cobb drew his attention towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I really like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great film.
Yeah,
It's just a really great film.
Just a masterpiece.
It's such a good ending as well.
Funny.
It's got the best ending to a film that no one gets. Because like the point of the ending is he doesn't care anymore. He doesn't care because he's moved on from his life. He's seen his children's faces. He can look at them now. He moves on.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, oh, but what if he was dreaming? No, that's not
yes,
the point.
no, but
I think the point is
okay,
it
yes,
doesn't matter.
So there might be
take your
subtext, and
own
that might be
meaning
what
from it
is.
and interpret the way you choose. And I just say it would have fallen over if you had looked at it for longer. That's
what
my
it's
meaning.
building up to a bit as well. It's like choose your own reality, basically.
Yeah.
It's
And he couldn't accept reality. He couldn't accept Mal's reality. He couldn't even look at his children's faces in limbo because he had to get back to them. And then when he moves on from Mal and sees his children's face, that's it. He's never going to go back to that ever again.
Because it's what's in his head canon, basically. It's just like, no, Mal is dead. I've watched her die. I can't live in a world with her now. I have to have my own world with the kids, and this is the one that's real to me. So this is the one I'll continue on in.
That's good.
It's brilliant. Also, the totem isn't his. That's not
Mal's.
his.
Yeah.
So
It's a reminder of Mal, isn't it?
yeah, but that's not his totem, so it doesn't work for him anyway. Because his totem is his wedding ring, and he's wearing his wedding ring, so he's not fucking dreaming at the end. It's a shame.
Hang on, so the little spinnaker thing isn't his own.
No, it's Mal.
Well, I know it's Mal's, but he can adopt it as his own.
Yeah, but he has his own, which is his wedding ring. So when he's dreaming, he doesn't have his ring on. And
Yes, but when he's dreaming and he spins it, it continues spinning.
all right,
It may be an idea he
still
used for
works.
Mal,
All
but
right.
it still works.
Let's
as
just
well.
say it's Mal's, but he does have his own.
Yeah, okay.
So there is another way to work out whether. If
What is Ariadne's? I can't remember because I didn't see that part of the film.
It's never shown to use. She's just shown making it, and it's basically just like
It's a chess piece.
It's a chess piece that she knocks over in the real world. So I guess she
In
just
the dream,
can't
she
knock
just
it
tries
over.
like.
Unlockable.
I really hate her.
I imagine what happens is it like pivots and then stands back up.
Do you think Ellen Page's character's a bit too like? I'm only here to ask questions.
Yes, I mean, I made the same thing. She's not the protagonist of the story, but she's basically the audience in that story. Whenever there's something
Audience surrogate.
whenever there's something that's a bit ambiguous that hasn't been entirely explained very well, she'd be like, oh, I'll ask her questions because I'm asking what the audience
But
is
it
thinking.
makes sense though for
Yeah.
her character.
Yeah,
she is
it has
just
to
an
be there.
actual
Yeah,
architect.
exactly.
She's never been in
Exactly.
the dream world before.
You need a character who's not been exposed
Yeah.
to the dream world yet, so
Yeah.
she can ask
She
the
is-
questions, so
she's-
the audience can have the answers.
She's not just a Mass Effect codex though. Like she does have characters. She's interesting. She wants her own thing out of it, which is the fact that she just loves creating things.
So I'm a
She's
bit
an
annoyed.
architect.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit annoyed at the sort of moment where Leo is just like, after she goes there, and then Leo scares her away because he's being a bit of a creep, and then his wife stabs her, and that's a bit kinky shit you don't want to get into.
Is that when she's in the elevator looking at the different...
No,
No,
it's
that's
when
when
he's
she's
first
been-
shown
She's
to be
doing,
dreaming.
that's when the amazing bit where she takes two mirrors
Mm.
and then shatters them and creates an
Oh,
aspiration.
yes, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, after that she storms out, and then Leo turns to his friend and is like, "Oh, she'll be back. She's seen that. She can't go back." And then Leo just like fucks off and does his own thing. And then she later comes back and just
No,
goes,
Dom Cobb.
Oh.
Tom.
And then she just like later shows up, and it's just like, oh no, I've seen things. I've got to do this again because I'm a character in the thing. I don't buy her.
I guess
coming
I
back.
guess
but
it
I
sort
don't
of
know,
plays on the fact.
If I'd been exposed to the fact that I could go inside people's dreams and I walk away
Yeah,
from it,
I-
I'm
I-
gonna be
I
like,
believe-
no,
I
sorry, I
think
have to
it-
do that.
I
mean,
think
that,
what
that's
it
pretty fucking
is
cool.
that it plays on the fact that this dreaming sort of thing is addictive and it's treated as like a drug, right?
Yeah.
When you see the people who are all wired up.
That's right. That Yusef's basement, isn't it? Where they're Yusef's great. Yeah, no, yeah.
I don't know. I think perhaps I want another scene with her realizing this on her own, because it just feels like the way it's done. It just feels like Leo decides it should happen, so it happens.
But again, that's a Chris Nolan film. I mean, there's so much action in his films that you actually can't have all of the scenes of action, because then you end up with like a 3.5-hour film, because he tries to pack in so much.
I think
in there.
secretly
Implied
Chris
action.
Nolan made the entire film just to service his kink of Joseph Gordon-Levitt flailing his arms after being knocked over on a chair, which happens like 4 times. He must really love that.
Such a,
It happens so often. The
I
only
mean,
reason
he
it's
looks
so-
good doing it.
Having said that, I need to watch The Dark Knight Rises again and see if that actually happens in there. I hope it does. I
mean, he's a Robin. That's the worst. That's a terrible reveal.
Robin, that's a nice name. Thanks. Just walks off.
No, that's the last thing. She's just like, you should use her birth name. I like that more. And then she hands him the bag, and he's looking really stoic. She's like, Robin.
Oh, is that what she
Yeah,
says?
yeah.
Oh,
It's the last thing she says, basically.
Yeah, I guess another potential, I guess problem is that.
I mean,
I mean,
it's a 10 out of 10 film.
it sounds
so
a
what
bit
are you
weird
gonna
sort of
do
saying.
other than nitpick.
Yeah,
That's true.
it feels a bit weird saying this, but it's sort of that Leo is just the main character. He's the only one who his subconscious brings in anything
I
noticeable.
mean-
It'd be nice even though there was just like a little token thing that the others brought in.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I get that he's dealing with more stuff, which is why it interrupts it more. But if we just had just a moment where another character goes, like, explaining to Ariadne that I haven't got.
Yeah,
that
but
name
they all
right.
do bring something in. You have the paradox moment with Gordon-Levitt, which they established before.
That's
you
not-
have the actor Tom Hardy who brings in the woman.
That's not his subconscious bringing it in, though. That's him using it as a little fight trick. It'd be nice if
But,
just
like-
if someone is like explaining to her, oh yeah, our subconscious moves it up, changes it as well. It's like, and then
You
he
need
turns round. It's like,
Yeah,
there's always
it
this
could have been a
painting
bit
for me.
too much, but I see where we're going.
Because he's
for.
the main. Because he's the
Yeah.
main.
Yes,
he's
but
the,
we
he's
could
the
at least
only
have
reason they're
one or
doing the
two
mission
more.
is because of Leo.
That's the other thing. Again, a lot of the, I guess my main problem with this film is it just seems like Leo decides it should happen, so it all happens and everyone does it and nobody resists and it all just.
Have you ever seen a heist movie? Though that's what they all are. There's,
Yeah,
there's
I know,
always
but-
one
I
guy
mean-
who's always knows everything.
No,
I know,
no.
I know,
In
I know,
Tower
I know,
Heist,
I know,
Ben
I know.
Stiller comes across the problem and he's like, "Oh, what do I do?" But then it happens. It coming soon on Tower Heist review.
I do sort of agree with you.
I think
People
you
do
could
just go
add-
along with it.
Yeah, you
but
could just add little,
Yeah, but
little
they have-
moments.
there's comedy spent money, isn't it?
I know, but this is just from my perspective. If I was shown that I could go inside people's dreams, I would do it all the time. And it's also about because they're all used to taking ideas out of dreams, but they get shown actually you can plant an idea in there, and it's like a challenge for themselves.
Yeah,
And
really
you're
cool.
right. They should have had like ulterior motives for doing it.
It's
But
like
I think
that-
it's a new challenge, and people feel the need to go
I don't
ahead
know what
and
it's
try it.
called, but there's a film in which 2 guys invent time travel, and it's the whole film is about them just
Source
being,
code?
but like it's the whole film is about these 2 guys just trying to one up each other and just playing around with it. And I feel like
That must be another Chris Nolan film. That sounds like the
oh no,
the Prestige.
I
meets
read
Inception.
like a 5-page thing about how the time travel in that film works. Oh my god, it makes no sense. like it's ridiculous that you have to go in this pod for 3 hours and then you get like 10 minutes in a like.
Oh, is this film called Primer?
That's the one.
Yeah, I've heard this similar. The time travel makes absolutely no sense at all,
like,
doesn't
the
it?
idea that about like them just very few people have this ability and like they have a few interesting.
They go in,
conversations about,
it's like a box, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, but like I definitely like they touch upon like where it came from, why it exists in this world. And there is a justification for like how few people actually like have it. It's good. It's really good fun.
You know, it is also good. Inception.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about Inception.
I do wonder
really
about how
seen
readily available dream or going inside people's dreams is to like
it's
everyone.
clearly very limited.
I think
surely.
it's
It's
sort
only
of
a few criminals and the military.
It's implied that it's illegal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who's Cobble Engineering? I wanted that sorted out.
That's just-
But
I don't really want that
that's
sorted
just
out.
sort of
That was pretty
but
good.
set dressing.
Mal brings it up, doesn't she? That you
I thought it
remember
was Dom Cobb.
at the end, Mal brings up the fact he's being chased around the world by all these shadowy organisations.
Yeah.
It's like that's quite good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's bullshit theories that she's right.
Yeah, but she's
She's
kind
clearly
of
not. But
she's kind of an asshole, really. She's just like
yeah, but it's his fault.
I know.
This
I know.
is his
That's-
own. This
that's-
is his own masterpiece.
That's the character drama
Really
at the
quickly.
centre of this really cool action film.
Yeah. Who's your favourite actor
Yusuf.
/ character in this film?
Tom Hardy, comfortably.
Yeah. What Eames?
How
Yeah.
do I drop
Eames.
people
Fair
without
enough.
falling?
Do you know what I mean?
That guy's really cool.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
Joseph
Gordon
Gordon-Levitt?
Levitt.
He's
Yeah,
really
sure.
good.
He's the cutest one.
Well, I mean, Yusuf.
We all love Yusuf. Should we just read him as the Yusuf podcast?
Yusuf and the Music Mates.
Oh no, I think the Dom Cobb. Dom Cobb podcast. Dom Cobb.
The worst thing is I love Inception so much
Gordon-Levitt.
because of you,
Fish is
John.
really good.
I'm never going to be able to watch it.
Gotta go
and
deeper.
not laugh because of all the. We gotta go deeper.
It's not about
yeah.
depth. It's
Me and-
about how you use it.
Me
It's
and-
almost
me
certainly
and- yeah.
a quote, I think.
There's so many like innuendos, and also Dom Cobb
Dom Cobb.
because he's only credited as Cobb.
Such a great.
But when you break it down, his name is Dom Cobb.
If you broke down Dominic Toretto's name, what would that be? Dom
Dom
Tor.
Dom Toretto.
No, but what would Toretto be down? What would Toretto be short?
Doesn't know how to find you, Toretto. Alright, we're just talking nonsense.
Yeah,
now.
we-
Shall we
Yeah,
hurry
that-
along to... Well, has anybody else got anything to say about this film?
I feel like I should say
Very
more,
good.
but nothing's coming to my mind right now. It's just a great film. Really.
Just It's a
Okay.
great film just for the one bit where Joseph Gordon-Levitt uses the fact that gravity is shifting to throw someone against the wall, and it's the coolest thing.
In a practical
Oh, yeah.
fucking set as well.
It's
That's
so
like
cool.
that's like a masterpiece.
Yeah, I mean that's very impressive if they can do that without CGI. It's incredible.
I know it's
So
like,
cool.
he's a very popular director, but Chris Nolan is one of the best directors in the
Oh,
world because he makes
Sure.
smart movie. He makes dumb movies that seem really smart. Like he makes very like films that are like, oh wow, this is amazing. Once you break it down, you're like, is it?
Yeah.
He does the very simple things very well, and I think this is his best film. And that's saying a lot because fucking Memento, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Interstellar. Jesus Christ, what a man! We need to do more. Every year that he's made a film in, can we just pick it?
We should review the Nolan 4K collection.
I'm really annoyed that Ethan has 2006, and if he doesn't do The Prestige,
Well, what if I'm doing Children of Men for it?
I will kill you.
I mean,
Yeah,
we'll
but
see
you've not
what the
seen-
wheel
none of you have
says.
seen Children of Men.
I am going to
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
review The Prestige.
What in my
Oh,
year?
Children of Men. I mean, it's about two magicians.
No, it's actually about two detectives.
That's a callback.
That callback because this is the longest podcast we've. This is
Yeah.
probably the longest.
It's the Inception
longest
podcast.
How long is it? Should we talk about what our ratings for the film then would be?
Yes.
So Harry,
Yeah.
I know you just gave your reason to go. You really like it. What
Well,
would you give
it's
it?
my favorite film. So, one of my favorite films. I have about 4 or 5 favorite films which change like every day. But probably my favorite film, 10 out of 10.
Okay, Tony.
I think just for that one cool scene.
Oh, so
through
this is the
again.
one episode you don't do 10 out of 10 for everything, Tony.
I said I'd be stopping the trend of forcing 10 out of 10s, and this
Wow.
10 out of 10 comes naturally.
Oh,
10
nice.
out of 10.
It's an out 10.
I'm going to give it 10 out of 10 as well because I think it's an incredibly unique storyline. It could have been really shit if it'd been done by another director. It's got a great cast. I love the dialogue. I love the setting of the film. It's an excellent film. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. And it's the best film as well. Jonathan Knowles, what's your verdict?
It's always me to like ruin the
When
perfect
did you become the
score,
Grouch,
but,
Jono?
I know.
I think I've always been the Grouch, but I think This film is the other
Keep
way
you up on the
around
ground.
to
I'm just saying it.
Red Dead Redemption, in which I sort of came in expecting to give it like a 7 out of 10, but you know, hearing all this stuff again, it's an 8 out of 10, I think.
Portal 2 is still the best thing that we've done. Yes.
Well done.
I am pleased.
I don't know. Wait until we get to Snatch an American Psycho. I think we might get a 9 from Johnny.
Snatch an American Psycho is I did that the other day, didn't I? I did that double bill.
I mean,
Yeah, I
Valhalla
did.
is the only thing that's got an 11 out of 10, and nothing's been that.
So,
Oh man, what a
I'm so
great,
glad we can move on from 2010.
what a great double bill. I know, this has been like
We've been
8 years
fixated
in the
on it
making,
for a
guys.
really long time.
Yes, we have.
I'm glad you could be with
Alright,
us on this
let-
journey.
Let's try and get the next. Who is the next one, by the way?
music, mate.
We should probably find out by spinning a fictional wheel.
Gotta spin.
No, right, Harry.
Oh, would you look at that?
That's Snoke ship.
Can you explain to me? It's a very funny line, but I'm not sure why I'm laughing. I think it's just because you guys are laughing.
I
What's
don't
actually funny about
It's
the
like
line?
I think I pointed.
He's just saying it's no
I pointed it out. Like it's not a bad. Like, it's just the way he says it. Like that's Snoke ship.
It's something. It's just a cool line. Jono, we interrupted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
That's Jonathan's podcast.
yeah, it looks like it's me for next year. So I guess I should remind myself what things what things came out this year and which ones I'm going to pick.
I could
So I want to go. My game is going to be Red Faction Guerrilla, the better game, which starts red and has 3 words in.
Red Dead Revolver.
But yeah, so this is.
Oh, fuck off right now. That was quite funny. You didn't fucking laugh.
I didn't say it. Anyway, Jono.
So Red
go ahead.
Faction Guerrilla, it's the game which has the best destruction system for like buildings and things.
Minecraft.
Yeah,
Uh,
nothing is better than Minecraft.
I'm kidding. Minecraft's really bad.
No, it's
It's a
not.
grid.
Well, autistic people like
A
it.
3D grid.
Yeah, but
Oh,
you're,
sand and gravel. They fall.
that's what I was going to say. Gravity, Tony.
But how do they fall when there's no gravity?
We make
We
the
make
gravity.
But yeah, it's,
Yeah, I
it's
know,
a,
it's good.
it's a sci-fi thing.
Red Faction Armageddon is the best red thing that has 3
No,
letters.
we don't talk about that, Tony. We don't talk about it. We just don't.
Unicorn.
Also,
gun.
I get to introduce what are we calling it? Ethan and his music mates, or just Ethan's music mates?
Ethan's music, mate.
Ethan's music mates,
Oh.
in which I pick my favourite album from the year and talk a little bit about it. And I'm
Johnny.
also going to make you all listen to the best song on the track.
Okay, I
from
know,
the album.
I know what the best thing for Fred is. D Blob, Red Edition. Pokemon Red Edition.
Jono, what's your film?
Yeah, what's your-
My film, I'm pretty sure, is Inglorious Bastards, or
Yeah,
however
that's
you,
right.
you
It's
spell
spelled
it.
incorrectly, yeah.
It's spelt the way that it could get past the the censoring, basically.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I'm looking forward.
I can't wait to talk about that. That's got so many amazing
I
things.
sort
in
of
it.
want someone to pick something I hate, but then again, like I quite like just reviewing things I like.
I think we might have to wait until the Parent Trap, Harry.
I don't think we're
Yeah, I
doing
was
the
going to
Parent
stop
Trap.
the 10 out of 10s this episode, but they were just too good.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Onto Inglorious Bastards, I think there'll probably be some sort of unnecessary scene, like the basement scene, because it's
Oh,
just one of his films.
I mean, Inglourious Bastards. We'll get onto it very soon, hopefully.
Sure. I've
Thanks
got to get
for-
better at explaining the storyline briefly to a film instead of just droning
But
on.
you don't have to for a while when you do.
Yeah, I
the next
know. I'm
one.
just going to say I'm going to work on it and probably plan what I'm actually going to say instead of just droning on about random
Instead of,
incessant bullshit.
Talking about the bit where you're rowing on a boat and
No, you're waiting
there's
for a train.
there's a
A
lighthouse.
train that will take you far away. You're not sure
You
where
go
it's
into the lighthouse and thanks for joining us on the Media Podcast.
Follow us on Twitter and other things.
Step in front of a runaway train just to feel alive again. Pushing forward through the night. Hey, so far away. It's so far away. Cold wind blows into the skin. Can't believe the state you're in. It's so far away. It's so far away. Who are you trying to press? Steadily creating mess. Step in front of a runaway train, just to feel alive again. Pushing forward through the night, making chest and blurry sight, aching chest and blurry sight. Aching chest and blurry sight. Step in front of a runaway train, just to feel alive again. Pushing forward through the night, making chest and blurry sight, aching chest and blurry sight. Hey.